Is the mic on? Episode 115. What's wrong with Orny Adams? I was just home in Boston visiting my family, and we had a family meeting, which was my idea, which I forgot. Everyone said, we should get together Tuesday to have the family meeting. And I usually just do whatever they ask me to do. So I said, yeah, Tuesday's great. And then people started to ask me, well, what's the meeting about? I said, what do you mean? They said, you called for a family meeting. I'm like, I did? I totally forgot I'd called for a family meeting. I thought we should be prepared in case one of us passes away, what we would do. So now I found myself leading a family meeting that I forgot I even called for. But it was great to see my family. And here's, I was reflecting. I was on a walk and I was thinking about this podcast. I'm back home outside of Boston visiting my parents. I'm walking through the woods. It's like one of these typical New England days, rainy, raw, no sun. And I had to get out of the house. And I was thinking about why I started this podcast in the first place. And it was because I found myself telling the same funny stories and personally tragic stories to the same 5 people over and over. And I thought, if I could just tell the story one time, record it, get those people to listen, then I only have to tell the story one time. And I'm amazed after doing this 4 years, how many people are listening to this podcast, watching this podcast. It's so cool. Thank you. But I realized those 5 people don't listen to the podcast. So now I have to tell the story 6 times. So really, this whole thing has been a failure. That's what's wrong with Orny Adams. So I'll tell you what. That, and you can hear a truck backing up, and I'm in the woods. It's unbelievable. It doesn't matter where I record. There's a truck backing up always. I was in the woods and I heard beep, beep. You know, I'm not like deep in the woods. There's, roads within half a mile or so, but I said, I just can't get away from this beeping. I am so sick of this beeping. But I love when I go home to Boston. I love the vibe, the energy, and I love more than anything getting smiles from strangers. You cross people's paths in Boston, people smile. Do you get that here where I live? I don't think so. I am so sick of people that feel like they always have to express their opinion. It's okay to say, I don't know. I don't have an opinion. How do you feel about this world affair? I'm going to start saying, I honestly haven't read enough. I don't know. Why do we feel we have to have an opinion and express the opinion? And sometimes the opinion's unfavorable. I'm continuously not shocked, bemused by the amount of comments under my content from people that just miss the point altogether. I'll give you an example. I posted this video. It's from my special, More Than Loud, and put it on all social media. I said, why married people look down on me? People that are married and have kids, they always look down on people like me. They always say, we figured it out. He never figured. Let me tell you what I have that you guys don't have. Silence. I mean, isn't that true? Isn't it true? Don't tell me married people don't miss the silence. I wake up every day, I'm like, what's that I'm not hearing? What is that? I look down, everybody's safe, on with my selfish day. I mean, there you go. So I post that, and on YouTube, the first 2 comments, first one from Eric, pretty generic name, Eric. No offense to Eric Stoltz, who edits his podcast, the audio, but Eric said, pretty sad. I'm glad he is coping. My kids are pretty quiet most of the time, and I'll take their noise with their love any day. Way to miss the point, Eric. It's called comedy. It's about taking a position and being absurd about it. Way to miss that point, generic name, Eric. And by the way, the people that are my fans that listen to this podcast, whose names are Eric, your name isn't generic to me. Just that guy. Cindy? Wow. Another generic name. What are we named after? The Brady Bunch? Cindy. That silence will be deafening when you're in your winter years. Well, hey, Cindy, I already am in my winter years. I'm already sitting up straight when I see commercials for this tub. They have to come to your house when you get to a certain age because you can die getting in and out of the tub. They put a chair in there for you. There's no ledge to climb over. So I'm at that point. I'm in my winter years mentally. You know, I just love. Here's the thing. You can be buffoonish in the opposite direction, but be funny about it. I'm being funny. You be funny. Here's some things I hate that I discovered when I was at home. First of all, old-looking remote controls. I don't think there's anything sadder than an old, sticky remote control for like a TV. And you just go, wow, this needs to be updated. This is sad. I can't stand that. The other thing is poison ivy. I was doing some weeding for my dad. I look up and I go, there it is. I don't think I've seen that in 30 years. I saw it right away. I said in my head, 3 leaves, let it be. That's how you know, right, about poison ivy. 3 leaves, let it be. You can't, there's no question. You see poison ivy, you go, that's poison ivy. That's poison ivy. And I started to think, remember that song? There was a song written by the Coasters. People that are married and have kids. Yeah, I just started to play the video again. Why not, right? I'm doing this all myself. Why shouldn't stuff just start playing when I go back on the computer? Okay, remember that song? It was by the Coasters. Poison Ivy is a popular song, American song, written by the American songwriting duo of Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller. It was originally recorded by the Coasters in 1969. I remember when I was a kid, my dad would tell me every song was written by those 2 guys. I think they wrote for Elvis. I think they wrote for everybody. But listen to the lyrics of this song, because it starts off like it's talking about a woman, but then it turns into the plant, which isn't that how every relationship goes? She comes on like a rose, but everybody knows she'll get you in Dutch, whatever that means. You can look, but you better not touch. Poison ivy, poison ivy. Late at night while you're sleeping, poison ivy comes a creeping around. I still don't know. Now I don't know if we're talking about the plant or the woman. She's pretty as a daisy. Boom, bum, 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 bum. But look out, man, she's crazy. Well, I don't think we're talking about the plant there. She'll really do you in. Bump, 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 bump. If you let her get her under your skin. Boy, bam, bop, 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 bop. Bop, 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 bop. Then it becomes a medical. The song turns into WebMD. Measles make you bumpy, and mumps will make you lumpy, and chicken pox will make you jump and twitch. The common cold will fool ya, and whooping cough will cool ya, but poison ivy, lad, not Lord, lad, L-A-W-D, will make you itch. You're gonna need an ocean. Bump, 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 of calamine lotion. Bump, 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 bump. You'll be scratching like a hound. Bump, 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 bump. The minute you start to mess around. Bye, 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 babe, bye, 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 bye. I do not miss calamine lotion. God. Measles make you bumpy. Mumps will make you lumpy. You're gonna need an ocean of calamine lotion. Poison ivy. Late at night while you're sleeping, poison ivy comes a creeping. Is that when it comes a creeping? Because, you know, I asked my dad, I said, I think I got poison ivy on me, so I'm gonna wash it off. He said, hey, you're fine. And he was right. He was fine. Did a lot of flying. I have this to say. This seems to be pretty standard for some reason or not, but I get on a plane in Canada, and I go to put the seatbelt on. It's always a little bit tight. I'm above average in weight for Canada. And then in America, the seatbelt's got about 15 feet of extra seatbelt. It's unbelievable. So I feel good when I put a seatbelt on a plane in America. I do it in Canada. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I will be unveiling a new Ozempic routine this weekend. Actually, it will have already happened in Las Vegas. Where are my dates coming up? Because this is important that everybody comes to see me. You can see me June 22nd at the Ice House in Pasadena, California. Saturday, June 22nd, 7 p.m. show, Ice House, Pasadena. June 28th, 29th at the Mic Drop in San Diego. All dates are up at ornyadams.com/tour. You got to see it. Everybody who's watching my videos online, listening and watching this podcast, thank you, Patreon people. You're extra special to me. If you're a Patreon user and your name is Eric, then I really like your name. OrnyAdams.com/tour. Got to see it live. People that are watching my specials online or all the clips we're putting up. The people that don't get the jokes, stay home. I'm sorry if you think I'm real serious. Don't get all religious on me about you and your kids, okay? That's what that's about. Not stupid. Okay? I understand kids bring a lot of joy to people, but guess what, Eric and Cindy? You'll never know the feeling I have of getting up on stage because you have the love of your kids. So in your winter years, Cindy, that silence of you not being on stage will bother you. I mean, everybody, shut up. Thank you. June 22nd, Ice House in Pasadena. Blah, 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 blah. San Diego, blah, blah, blah. New dates out every day. Blah, 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 blah. Got an email from another company I do business with that has my social security number, my address, and my phone numbers and all that stuff, banking type institution, that there was a data breach. These companies should not be taking our informational, our personal information, our sacred social security numbers if they can't secure it. Did you see this documentary on the Ashley Madison? It's a 3-part documentary. They didn't give a woo about our security. On the website, they would put that they're secure, that it's all these, they made up fake logos to mislead the consumer that their information was safe. And then it got leaked. People committed suicide. People got divorced. The crazy couple in the documentary that lived in Dallas, she took them back. Those two people deserve each other. This guy had multiple affairs, pretended, and by the way, Eric and Cindy, I suspect this is the type of person you are. All into religion, and you're going to preach the Almighty. You're going to preach this supposed higher moral ground of, you have to have kids and procreate. But you guys, you're out there, you're probably walking contradictions. I don't know you, but why do you feel the need to express that under my video? Why do people feel the need to express anything? Just shut up. Enjoy something, don't enjoy something. Your opinion does not have to be expressed all the time. That's what I'm saying. Reel it in. We don't need to hear it. But that Ashley Madison documentary, really fascinating. And they still don't know who did the leak. I bet we find out someday. On the plane, oh boy, to Canada, I watched a documentary about the killing of rhinos. It's just disgusting. This traditional Chinese medicine, people think that the rhinos, you shave down the rhino, it always makes you want to throw up. It will give them erections and youth. Then they do like a DNA test on rhino horn, and it's got the same chemical compound as our nails. So why don't you just eat your nails instead of killing these rhinos? They'll cut off the rhino horn on a live rhino and let it just walk in circles dying, yelping, crying. You've got to hear what it sounds like when a rhino is shot. Actually, you don't have to hear what it sounds like. You should never hear what it sounds like. It should never happen. I'm starting to think that the world is just full of shitheads. Then I watched a documentary I talked about this with Cato. Oh, two things with Cato. Okay? Because Cato brought up, I was talking about the Donut King, this guy who came from Cambodia, Let me get the notes up on this. Oh boy, this is. I have to make these a little bit bigger so I can read my computer. Hold on, everybody. Okay, The Donut King is a documentary about a guy. His name was Bun Tek Ngoy. Excuse my pronunciation. Did I just make it smaller? I just made it bigger, then I just made it smaller. Boy. This guy came from Cambodia, lived through the horrible times, the war. All right, so there we go. Let's do this. If you listen to the episode with Cato, and by the way, what a tremendous guest Cato Kalem was. That was the last episode, 114. You should really listen. But this guy, Bun Tek Ngoy, was raised in Cambodia on the border of Thailand with his Chinese. His mother was Chinese. I think his father was Cambodian. He was part of a despised underclass. What happens is this guy comes to America, tastes his first donut, says, what's this? Decides to open a donut shop. Very ambitious. Now, most people, myself included, try a donut and we think, all right, if I want another donut, I'll just come back here. Not Bun Tek Ngoy, okay? In 1967, his mother sent him to study in Phnom Penh, the capital, at a school. Then the guy falls in love with this girl. She's of the upper class. Her father's a high-ranking government official. Her brother-in-law was a chief of police and later briefly became president of Cambodia. Anyway, there's a war going on in the 70s. I know about this because I have a personal connection with Cambodia, which I hope to discuss on a podcast at some point. So he's got to flee. Okay, he has to flee the Khmer Rouge, which are sanitizing. They're killing people because they want to create, much like Hitler, I think, a master race of Cambodians. Anyway, he changes his name to Ted. His wife changes her name to Cindy. Probably the one who, I just realized, sent the email about the kids. Probably the one that attacked me on YouTube. Wasn't an email, it was a comment. Anyway, Ted made a fortune in donuts. Over the years, he led thousands of his countrymen into the business through donuts. Many Cambodians stepped out of isolation and into the American mainstream, and a new figure emerged on the California business landscape. The Cambodian donut shop owner. I think they owned over 90% of the donut shops, the independent donut shops in America. Ted, what he did was he wanted to learn about making donuts, so he went and worked at a Winchell's. He became an apprentice and then started his own donut shop, became the biggest competitor for Winchell's. This guy arrived as a refugee at Camp Pendleton. He had no money. A church sponsored him and put him up. Then he ends up sponsoring over 100 families later when he became successful. He had a mansion, had homes in different places, would go to Europe and buy cars. This guy had it all. Then, over 60 stores he had. Then, he took a trip to Vegas to go see Elvis Presley. And he tried gambling. And then he got hooked. And guess what? Lost it all. He lost it all. He started to borrow money from the people whose stores he gave them a store, then he borrowed money. I don't think he paid it back. I think he took out loans. He gambled on the title, which his wife owned too, to these donut shops, and he lost donut shops to bookies and ended up penniless, broke, homeless, back in Cambodia. His wife goes with him. Again, these wives, these women are unbelievable. I'm talking about the woman in this Ashley Madison documentary that's stuck by this creep. If you saw this guy, who I suspect had some work done on his face, I'm just speculating. And anyway, I don't want to pass judgment because I don't like when people do it to me. But he wasn't not the type of guy I would want to hang out with. And he had all these affairs. And he lied, of course. He went up on this site. Ashley Madison is a dating site for married people. So each person's married and they want to have an affair on their husband or wife. And so the theory is, well, they're not going to tell on the other person because they have just as much to lose. Well, nobody ever thought they were going to get hacked and all the information goes out there. And like I said, one guy in the documentary committed suicide. And it's just, the whole thing sucks. Sucks are on there. Sucks, being betrayed at that level, that you're in love with somebody and then they have an affair. But what I'm saying is that this woman stuck by this guy in the documentary. And then same with this Cindy, who was married to, the Donut King guy, Ben. Is that his name? Ben? And he goes back to Cambodia. Then he ends up having an affair. So she sticks with him after he gambles away their entire fortune. She's there as he builds it up. She's there as he loses it. Then he has an affair, and then he goes, that's it, I'm out. She said, I'm out. She's out. Moves to America. And he eventually comes to America. And I think there was a time where his kids didn't even talk to him, and she didn't talk to him. So, anyway. How about a happy story? How about a happy story? I was at home. I've talked about this when I go home. I just sit there and there's a ton of newspapers. Every day my family puts with my parents, actually, my mom, my dad, and me. My dad puts the newspapers out and we sit there and we read papers and we pass articles to each other. This is an article I found in my garage yesterday. I've got to get into. But this is great. This woman, where is it? Poison eye. Britain awarded King Medal for saving sister from crocodile. Crocodile. Georgia Lori immediately jumped into the water when her twin sister was dragged into a river by a crocodile in Mexico. Grabbing onto her sister Melissa, she fended off 2 or more attacks by the crocodile, punching the beast in the head. Both made it out alive. Now, King Charles III is awarding Georgia a medal for gallantry, a tradition in which the monarch recognizes civilians for acts of exemplary bravery. Exemplary bravery. It's a silver lining, Georgia Lori, now 31, said after the vacation gone wrong for the Britton twins. I go, oh, wait a minute, twins. I'm starting to think, wonder what they look like. Vacation had gone wrong for the Britton twins in June 2021. Guides had falsely told them that a swim in the Mexican River during the trip to see the bioluminosity would be safe. What does this remind everybody of? A little episode of What's Wrong with Orny Adams called Otter the Ordinary, where I was told it was safe to go into the creek where there were otters, only to come home and do a little bit of research to discover otters attack. And when they attack, they don't let up. They'll follow you right into the shore and just keep attacking. Screw these animals that are in and out of the water. Pick a lane. Are you amphibious or landphibious? So I read this, and I think to myself, I wonder, I start ranking people I love. Would I jump into the water for that person? I make a list now. I have a list of people in my life that I would or wouldn't jump into the water to save if there was a shark attack or a crocodile attack or an otter attack. I have a list. Anybody wonder where they are on the list? Are you on the left side? I'd save you. Or the right side? I wouldn't save you. Oh, let's look at this video. This is the twins talking. And the one that got attacked is very timid. I guess they're lucky that that's the one that was attacked, because the other one is very extroverted. All right, here we go.
So my friend was just about to pull me up to the bank to safety.
This is the one who got attacked.
Snatched my hand and dragged me underwater. And honestly, it happened so fast and with such brute force that my life just started flashing before my eyes, and all these thoughts started rushing through my head. I'm never going to see my family and my friends again, and that George is going to have to repatriate my body. You just don't want to think these things in your final moment,
Yeah, I mean, I can't even look at the image, I mean, you lived it, but the image of your hand, you know, I've seen it on Instagram, and it's sort of horrific. And then, Georgia, at that point, you kind of went into, you know, autopilot or something, you know, to try and save your sister.
Yeah, so it was a very visceral, very primal response. I just went straight into fight response. I mean, that was the only choice I had, right? So, I mean, there's this really beautiful Bob Marley quote, and it says,
"No woman, no
you
cry."
never know how strong you can be until being strong is the only choice you have. And yeah, so I mean,
That's a good quote,
I went back to try and find her after there was no response from her. And I saw her body floating towards me in the mangroves. And that's when the fight began, really, because the crocodile
What is this,
came
West
back
Hollywood?
and it snatched her away from me.
Joke.
And so I started punching it with, yeah, just going hell for leather, really.
Hell for leather.
I mean, it's wild when you think about it. And Melissa, could you see what Georgia was doing, that she was basically punching this crocodile?
Isn't it hard to punch underwater?
So I woke up just before the second attack happened. I started flailing my arms and legs about.
Who falls asleep in the middle of a crocodile attack?
And I remember Georgia saying, you know, ayuda, you know, like...
tranquilo,
yeah.
Yeah.
Tranquilo?
And,
wait a minute, is she talking to the crocodile in Spanish? Tranquilo?
After that, I passed out, and I don't remember anything.
Yeah. Well, Georgia punched the crocodile repeatedly as it came back 3 times to attack while friends of theirs went to get help. That's what I would do. I'm on the shore. Now I got to check my list. Where are you on my list? You're on the left, I jump in and save you, or you're on the right. Imagine you're on a tour with just people you don't even know, or casual friends. You got to make a big decision. Do I jump in to save? Anyway, that woman clearly deserves an award. Have you ever thought about that? Would you jump in? I'm sure the people that have kids that criticize my video titled "Why Married People Don't Like Me," I'm sure they do. I'm sure they would jump in. Wouldn't it be funny if that guy didn't jump in? Guy who criticized me. Wouldn't that be something else? You know what? Moving on here. This is an article that was in the Boston Globe, that article. This is an article from the New York Times, Tuesday, May 14th, 2024. I take out a lot of ads, okay, on Instagram and Facebook. I've done it for a lot of, you know, when you're reps, they always say, oh, why don't you just throw $100 towards the show? Maybe you sell a few tickets, create awareness. And it seems like, you know, yeah, why not? The problem is that Facebook, what they like to do is if somebody is a fan of yours or follows your page and they live in a city and you post, I'll be in your city, in that city, like somebody lives in Chicago. He's like, oh, I'm coming back to Chicago. And then they don't even disseminate your information to that person unless you pay for it. It's so messed up. It infuriates me. I don't understand who they're giving these ads to. So, listen to this. Ads. Now I'm an old guy that lost his glasses. Just put me in the shower with no doors in the seat so I can crawl into it. Ads with girls elicit inquiries from predators, of course. When a children's jewelry maker began advertising on Instagram, she promoted photos of a 5-year-old girl wearing a sparkly charm to users interested in parenting, children ballet, and other topics identified by Meta as appealing mostly to women. But when the merchant got the automated results, they give you these results. Good luck trying to understand those. I don't understand all the graphs and everything. You know, it's like, enough. When did we all become advertisers? When did we all become, you know, entrepreneurs? Everybody has a product. Everybody's selling something. Even people that aren't selling something are selling something. Some people on social media are just selling their depression. The woe is me-ism. Everybody is selling. I'm selling to you. You're selling to me. But they send you this. You can't figure this out. I post a video. It's going to tell you how many seconds people watched on average, how old those people were, where those people lived, when they ducked out, what word they didn't like, what word they searched. Like, we don't need all this shit. Not everything in life has to be so scientific. But I can tell you this, people that are posting pictures with young women, perhaps young boys, the predators are finding them. They're not going to the people looking to buy jewelry and ballet stuff for 5-year-olds. The ads had gone almost entirely to adult men after looking at the metadata. Perplexed and concerned, the merchant contacted the New York Times, which in recent years has published multiple articles about the abuse of children on social media platforms. In February, the Times investigated Instagram accounts run by parents for their young daughters and the dark underworld of men who have sexualized interactions with those accounts. The Times opened up 2 Instagram accounts and promoted posts showing the 5-year-old girl, her face turned away from the camera, wearing a tank top and the charm. Separate posts showed the clothing and jewelry without the child model or with the black box concealing her. All of the paid ads were promoted to people interested in the topics like childhood, dance, cheerleading, which Meta's audience tools estimate is predominantly women. Well, guess what happened? Within minutes, listen to this. Remember this sound, everybody? This is my ringtone. This is my ringtone. This is a newspaper page being turned. Continued from page A1. The results suggest that the platform's algorithms play an important role in directing them to photos of children, and they echo concerns about the prevalence of men who use Instagram to follow and contact minors, including those who have been arrested for using social media to solicit children for sex. Then they go on. I mean, it's very specific, okay? Within minutes, the account gets their fake, the New York Times fake account. A few hours after the first ad was posted, one of the Times test accounts received a message and a phone call from a man arrested in 2015 in Oklahoma after allegedly using Facebook to try to arrange group sex for girls aged 12 and 14. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Facebook. I'm angry because I'm buying ads and they're not going to the right people and nobody's saying who. And then this world. I'm just reading and talking about things that interest me in this comedy podcast. That's all. This was interesting. Oh, so the Cato, let's talk about this. Cato, on my podcast, last episode 114, we were talking about the Donut King. That's how I got off on this tangent. We were talking about the Donut King. And Cato said, we were talking about the Killing Fields. Because that was a great film, came out in 1982 or 83. Part of my story as someone who has a tight connection to Cambodia and Cambodians. And I remember seeing this film, and I'm like, yeah, this is everything I've been told. And it was very powerful. And they found an actor that hadn't acted before. And Cato on the podcast said, do you remember what happened to that guy? I couldn't remember if it was the guy who actually escaped, who was the subject of the film, or the actor who played him in the film. But he got murdered. And it was here in Los Angeles. So here's What's Wrong with Orny Adams correction from the last episode. The guy was not killed in San Francisco, like I said. It turns out he was killed in Los Angeles. I suspect Cato knew that, but didn't want to correct me. So here's an article from People magazine. The Killing Fields actor killed in 1996 in L.A. And this I didn't know about. I want to investigate this more. Actually, I might get Jim Clemente, famous FBI profiler, on this one. Heartfelt tributes poured in from all over the globe when Oscar winner, the Killing Fields actor, wait a minute, this guy's name is too. Wow, wait a minute. Isn't the Donut King guy I'll have to find out how you say that. Anyway, is that like Smith over there? The name Smith was fatally shot outside his Los Angeles apartment in 1996. Director Oliver Stone called the 55-year-old man a man of great strength and courage. Nuer's niece, Sophia Nuer Demetri, who escaped the Cambodian genocide, that's the word I was looking for, with him in 1979, surviving on rats and... oh, they ate rats. Shit. Damn, this life can get bad. Ate rats and termites as they crawled across the border to Vietnam to the safety of the Red Cross refugee camp. Lost the only family she had left, which is her uncle that got killed. His life and suspicious killing are examined in the next episode of People Magazine Investigates, which I tried to find. I'd even be willing to pay $1.99 for that if you had it up there on YouTube Premium or something. Ngor, I wish I knew how to say this, Ngor, had lived through the horrors inflicted by the barbaric Khmer Rouge army, which swept through Cambodia from 1975 to 1979 at the direction of the country's ruthless dictator, Pol Pot, who thankfully died at a reasonably young age. Dr. Hang S. Ngor wanted to create, Pol Pot wanted to create a master race in that's what I said, 1975. The communist leader and the Khmer Rouge began killing up to 2 million innocent people in their deadly Year of Zero campaign to create a socially engineered, classless agrarian society. Agrarian society, like agriculture society, a society that sustains itself on agriculture. Anyone who was educated, spoke another language, lived in the city, or worked for the Cambodian government was considered expendable. Those who weren't immediately executed, like Ngor, a physician who pretended to be a taxi driver, was sent to detention camps where they died from being starved, worked to death, or tortured. He didn't die. His wife died in his arms while she was giving birth. Anyway, he comes to America, and this other guy, I'm so confused. I'm sorry. I'm talking about the guy who played the guy in the film. So he comes here and landed a role in the 1984 movie The Killing Fields, inspired by the New York Times correspondent Sidney Schomburg's Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times Magazine article, The Life and Death of Dith Pran, the story of Cambodia. In the film, Ngor played Pran, the intrepid journalist, translator, and guide who risked his life to help the journalist get cover from the Khmer Rouge reign and the terror of Cambodia. Anyway, what is fascinating is this guy won the Academy Awards, and he went out, he was very vocal about how bad Cambodia was. He said, the Killing Fields is just the tip of the iceberg. He said at one time, the war is over, he said, but the battle goes on. And what I didn't know was he was gunned down in Los Angeles in an alley outside of his apartment. The incident initially seemed like a random robbery, but the gunmen left behind his Mercedes, $2,900 in cash in his jacket, and $800 in his pants. Many, including his niece, wondered if the shooting was ordered by associates of the Khmer Rouge who didn't like the spotlight he was continuing to shine on the regime's atrocities. People suspect that this just wasn't an ordinary robbery. I'm afraid to even comment on it. Like Cato said, it's a scary world. It is a scary world. Let's do some viewer email. Now let's talk about Halifax. Let's talk about how great that show was. Let's talk about something positive. Great people coming out to see comedy. I love it. I'm torn because I love comedy so much. I was thinking this morning, I'd like to be doing some writing. I woke up, I started editing the last episode, and now I'm recording this episode, then I'll have to edit this episode. And I was cutting together some promos, and I love it. I love it. But I hearken back to the simpler times when I was just doing stand-up comedy. That's all there was stand-up comedy. You didn't have to put clips out. You didn't have to take out ads on Instagram that will get into the hands of predators, perhaps. Although, those people aren't looking at my ads. I just feel like the double-edged sword of technology. And I'm on the cusp. I'm barely getting by. I have so much to do on my to-do list. And yet, I'm doing this. But when I'm on stage, it feels like meditation. It feels like I'm really there and present, and I love that. And I love the show in Halifax at the Spats Theater. Thank you to everybody that came out and stood for me at the end. It's humbling. It really is. It really is. Okay, this is an email. I can't remember what these emails are about. Oh, wait, one of them said Halifax. Oh, I read that in the last one. All right, this is from Tamara. Orny, you once said there's nothing like experiencing comedy like you do at a live event. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but you are so right. Oh, this is Halifax. My friends had bought me tickets to the Halifax Comedy Festival, though we thought for your show exclusively. I think they thought they were just coming out to see Orny Adams do an hour. They got him in December as a Christmas present. Only one friend, Crystal, came with me last night, as the other, Sarah, is a full-time caregiver for her dad. I've been a fan of yours for a while now, and you, as always, were amazing in your set. I completely enjoyed all the other comics as well. I like to hear that. I like to hear you enjoyed the show as a whole. Best night I have ever had. But I believe for me, the greatest gift was seeing the complete and utter joy my friend Crystal had at your show. She was laughing so hard she was crying. After nearly 2 years of me randomly laughing as we worked together because I'm watching your specials or What's Wrong with Orny Adams episodes and not being able to get her to watch any of them. Well, shame on her. How dare she? Let me get this straight, Tamara. You bring your friend Crystal to see my show after years of encouraging her to watch my stuff. Why is it so hard to get people to watch my stuff? What am I, the Black Plague of stand-up? Is there something wrong with me? So then Crystal comes to see a show. I'm suspecting she has a change of attitude. Let's get back to the email and let's find out. We left the show with her saying it was a great show. Oh, that's all? But you were the best comedian. She's also been calling all her family and telling the cremation story part. She has needed this as it has been very stressful for her as well. So from a grateful best friend, thank you for being you. I know you're killing them with laughter tonight in Ottawa. Well, listen, happy ending. But now what's going to happen? I can already predict it. Crystal's going to try and share my content with people in her family, and they probably have that stubborn gene that she has, and they're not going to watch it. Hey, listen to me. If somebody says, you got to see this guy, Orny Adams, or they pass around one of my videos, you need to watch it. This Crystal denied herself of years of pleasure by not listening to her good friend Tamara and watching and listening to my comedy content. I don't know what this email's all about. I read it a couple of times. This guy's from Taiwan. He's I don't know. He starts naming all the comics that he liked. Norm Macdonald died, and Steven Crowder something. I don't know. But he ends up. I spent more than a year digging across maybe he's like a teacher over there teaching English. I spent more than a year digging across the web searching for Norm material. Loves this Norm Macdonald. And I trolled across a sub-oceanic landscape of Letterman, Lennon, and Conan, and a million independent podcasts. And then eventually I came across a Norm interview where someone said that Norm was friends with Adam Carolla and that Adam had a podcast. And I was like, what the? Carolla has a podcast? Yeah, where you been? Where you been, in Taiwan? Of course Adam Carolla has a podcast. Dumb guest of the year every year, even though I don't win. And it turned out Adam had not only been podcasting for 14 years, but that I had missed all of it up until that point. Anyway, the guy listens to it, finds me, finds my podcast, and he said, you and Adam have spent voluminous portions of time complaining of the backup beeping and the sound of a truck. Yeah, and I did again in this podcast because I was in what I thought the woods and I heard beeping and backing up. So I want to tell you a story about a man in his 70s who lived in Morro Bay, California. So then he goes into a long story about a guy who heard the beeping and backing up. I think he thought he could beat the truck. He didn't beat the truck. He had a cane. And the moral there is don't try and beat a backing up truck if you have a cane, I believe. I don't know for sure. But... yeah, this life. I haven't figured out if I like this shirt I'm wearing yet. I have an obituary I'm going to read at the end. Thankfully, it's not mine. Let's see if there's anything else I want to sort of get into in this podcast. I know this is sort of a heavily a lot of reading on this podcast. I'm exhausted from all the reading. I should have stopped after singing Poison Ivy. That's when I should have ended this podcast. Yeah, I know the podcast name is What's Wrong with Orny Adams, and I know I complain a lot, but I have to tell you, I go through most of life truly grateful that I have as much as I have. I mean, at the beginning when I said I found this article in my garage, we can talk about that. Maybe I'll talk about it's another reading. I have an article about. I have so much stuff that I read. Like here's another article, but I won't read it. It's, I know it's on the front page of the Weekend Arts for the New York Times. In the corner it said, Francis Ford Coppola faces accusations. It says it in the upper corner. I go, oh, boy, clickbait has been around forever. Like, clickbait for the print media of the newspaper was get somebody from the front page to turn to the back page or wherever. But Francis Ford Coppola tried to kiss film extras, article says. Let you read that one yourself. You can decide. I found this old article in the, you know what, I'm going to do this on another podcast, but it's about this middleweight boxer, Sergio Martinez. And this is from the Wall Street Journal from March 2012. And I'm in this article. I totally forgot I was in this article. I don't remember even talking to the person for the article. My college buddy David Bauman's in the article. It's just such a weird world. Like, how much of my life is mine? I don't know anymore. I don't know. Daniel Kramer, this is the obituary, and then I'm just going to riff at the end and get us out of here. But I found this inspiring. So this is inspiring. He's the photographer for Bob Dylan. And how did he become the photographer Bob Dylan? And let this be a lesson for a lot of people because I'm not this person. Like when it comes to like booking guests on this podcast, I'm shy. I hate rejection. I hate asking people more than once. But this guy was persistent and became one of the greatest photographers of our times. As a young Brooklynite trying to carve out a career as a freelance photographer, Mr. Kramer decided he had to arrange a photo shoot with the budding legend Bob Dylan. He spent 6 months dialing the office of Dylan's manager, Albert Grossman. The office always said no. Mr. Kramer said in a 2016 interview with the British newspaper, The Guardian, finally, 6 months later, Mr. Grossman himself took his call. He just said, okay, come up to Woodstock next Thursday. He ended up shooting Bob Dylan. He won a Grammy for the album cover, Bringing It All Back Home. Mr. Kramer shot the cover image for the album, one of the most recognizable in rock history. It depicts a dapper Mr. Dylan in the living room of Grossman's house near Woodstock, New York, surrounded by a jumble of magazines, record albums, and a fallout shelter sign with the manager's wife, Sally Grossman. Let me see this picture. Oh, they don't put that album cover on here? Unbelievable. Shouldn't that be here? In the background. Mr. Kramer earned a Grammy nomination for the image. I didn't know you could win a Grammy. I didn't know you could win a Grammy till I read this article for an album cover. But there's a Grammy Award for Best Recording Package. The Grammy Award for Best Recording Package is one of a series of Grammy Awards presented for the visual look of an album. It is presented to the art director of the winning album. I didn't know that till I read this. That's why I like to learn. That's why I like to share this with you guys. So maybe you learn something. Maybe you laugh and learn. Laugh and learn. Laugh and learn. What's wrong with Orny Adams? Laugh and learn with Orny Adams. He said he also discussed the circular aura effect overlaying the image. People think I use Vaseline to create the circular image, to make it a blur, Mr. Kramer once said. That's not what I did. It's two different pictures on one film. One is moved and the other is not. I wanted to simulate a record spinning. He actually only took, I think, 8 pictures that day. Imagine having that confidence. This guy had the confidence to call Albert Grossman, Dylan's manager, over and over again. He had the confidence to just shoot 8 images. I don't know if you've ever had your picture taken with a digital photographer, but they take 500 pictures, and they all look pretty much the same. In fact, the only reason they used the one that got picked for that album, which won the Grammy for bringing it all back home, was because the cat. That was the only one. The cat was looking into the lens. I would have shot 25 and thought, all right, let's hope the cat looks into the lens in one of them. The obituary continues. Shooting portraits of luminaries for a variety of publications over the years, he maintained his ability to connect with them on an intimate level. That's what makes a great photographer. They bring something out of you. You feel comfortable with them. You trust them in their lens. Just like I trust Eric Stoltz in his editing and mastering of this podcast. He said of himself, I've had writing lessons from Norman Mailer, boxing lessons from Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali, and harmonica lessons from Bob Dylan. While he was well aware that he was privileged to serve as a witness to pop music history, actually, he claims he saw Bob Dylan play electric before Newport, that he knew he was going electric before everybody else. Mr. Kramer later said that the magnitude of what was unfolding before his lens was not always so apparent at the time. There's a great quote. This is up there with that Bob Marley quote from the sisters fighting off alligators together, the twin sisters. Ready? This is Daniel Kramer, photographer for Bob Dylan. You don't know someone's changing the world, he said, until the world's been changed. You don't know somebody's changing the world, he said, until the world is changed. Now, the only one of my feelings about this obituary was it was more about Bob Dylan. And I think your goal in life is to have your obituary more about you. That's my only thought. We need people like this. But he's tied to Bob Dylan forever, much like Cato is tied to OJ. And I'm sure a lot of people are tied to people they don't want to be tied to. Can't shake them as much as you want to. It's a weird world. It's a weird existence. And I guess part of the reason I talk about the things I do on stage and don't talk about the things on stage is because there's a greater purpose to the small things in life, the distractions. And when I talk about people and their opinions and how you can keep it to yourself, like the world is too spread out. Be less spread out. When you express your opinions about somebody else, you've spread yourself out to that person. Just keep it local. Stay local. Stay local, stay humble. And elevate other people, just like you would like to be elevated. Do unto others elevating as you'd like to done unto you elevated. It's a wicked world. And I don't know how to avoid it. I want to know how to avoid it. I want to know how not to watch documentaries on rhinos being slaughtered because people think there's some sort of medicinal purpose to their horns, which have the same chemical makeup as a human nail. I want to know where Where are the good people? And that Donut King guy was charismatic. I said this to Cato. Beware of charismatic people. I've been fooled by many of them. Very seldom have I been fooled by an uncharismatic person, because that person's not trying to get something out of you. Somebody who can smile effortlessly, that just sort of looks at you and just like is encouraging. Like, I don't know how these people look at you. They look at people saying stupid shit and they don't like, it doesn't like register on their face at all. They just sort of like, yeah. No, what you're saying is great. Like that full of shitness. Boy, it will get you far. Boy, it will get you far. But it will, you can't trust them. You can't trust them. Now, I'll say this, because I've got to go return about 6 pairs of shoes that I bought online. I think I'm done shopping online. I want to encourage everybody to stop shopping online. Now that I'm a member of REI, the co-op, now that I'm a big-time hiker, next week, I'm going to go hiking again. Bought hiking shoes, but no less than 7 pairs got delivered to my house. All different sizes and colors and widths. And some are waterproof, some aren't. And I eventually went to REI, which I'm a member of. And I got to try them all on in one place and only pay $10 more than online. In the online, the amount of gas that it takes to deliver this to my home, and then I have to go return them, bring them to a place to ship them back, more gas. It's too much. Here's the other thing. It gets you out of the house. We got to get out of the house more and interact with people more. The online shipping is ruining our lives. That's what's wrong with Orny Adams. Episode 115. I need a breather. I've got to stop doing these episodes where I read too much. I didn't even get through all the articles. But at the time, I'm reading and I think, well, I could talk for an hour about these girls that, the twin sisters that fended off a crocodile. Orny, Adams, put them together and what do you got? We got Orny Adams. Oh, what's wrong with Orny Adams? He just reads for his podcast. But I want to thank you, the listeners. I want to thank everybody that subscribes to my podcast, that writes reviews, my Patreon subscribers, which keeps growing and growing. Everybody sharing my videos. Eric Stoltz for mastering the audio. It's a good time. It's a good time. Sure is. Yeah. I'm thinking of calling another family meeting. I mean, why not, right? I do want to watch The Killing Fields again. I think that's on Netflix. Yeah. Stop ordering stuff online, everybody. Don't call a family meeting if you can't remember why you called it. And compile a list ahead of time of the people that you would jump into the water and save if there was a shark attack, a crocodile attack, an otter attack. Because you don't want to be sitting there doing the calculations on the shore. Got to be ready to go. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you for episode 116. And by then, I'll be back from hiking. I'll listen to the birds. Springtime, Los Angeles.